Tragedy at Louisville's airport. A UPS cargo plane burst into flames during takeoff. The engine separating from the wing before it slammed into nearby businesses.
The reality is this rocked our community. Louisville looked apocalyptic last night.
Federal investigators on the ground tonight combing through the debris spread across half a mile.
There are a lot of different parts of this airplane in different places.
Witnesses share their chaotic escape as the flames and smoke quickly spread.
And the flames were so bad, and, we make a decision, run for our lives.
WLKY News at 6 starts right now.
The impact of this tragedy is growing as we just learned a 12th person has passed away, and one of those victims is a child.
As you can see, we have team coverage for you tonight. We begin with Jennifer Bayless, who is live at the airport for us. Jennifer?
Well, Rick and Vicki, it is such an incredibly tough night for the families of those 12 victims, as well as UPS, which is just like a family, as we know. The businesses that were hit by those planes and the businesses that work and enjoy business here, and our entire community for that matter. The NTSB has a team of investigators on the scene tonight. They arrived a little bit earlier today as they begin the tedious work to figure out exactly what went wrong. Governor Andy Beshear, Mayor Craig Greenberg, and Congressman Morgan McGarvey all had a chance to visit the crash site this afternoon, and what they had witnessed was horrific.
What we just saw at the crash site is devastating beyond words. The impact and intensity of the wreckage, of the charred wreckage, is unlike anything I've ever seen before, and certainly nothing that I ever want to see again. The vast size of the debris field where the plane crashed in flames is completely heartbreaking.
But what the three of us just went and witnessed at the site, it's like a scene out of a Terminator movie. It is burned and mangled wreckage beyond anything I've ever seen. The smells, the sights, these are things that are not going to escape us when we close our eyes tonight.
Yeah, it's really, really terrible. It took a second before the show started here, Alexis, and I walked through the airport, and you can really feel how devastated everybody is here tonight. UPS planes taking off right now have been all afternoon here. Alexis Matthews joins me now. You were in the latest press conference with the National Transportation Safety Board. What's the latest on that investigation?
Yeah, today we heard from the National Transportation Safety Board, the lead investigators who will work to answer the #1 question that many have about this deadly crash, and that's how did it happen? Now, 28 investigators from the NTSB GOLD team will be on the ground in Louisville, many of them arriving today. Now, they were able to confirm through security footage that the left engine detached from the plane's wing during takeoff. And their main mission is to find out what caused this deadly crash and also issue a report and safety recommendations to try and prevent it from happening again. Now, NTSB officials say the key to that is the black box that they were miraculously able to recover from the debris that has voice and data recorders from the cockpit, which will clue investigators into those moments leading up to the fiery crash, what malfunctioned, and what caused the fire in that left engine. Now, that box will be sent to NTSB headquarters in Washington, D.C. to extract that data, and NTSB expects to be here for at least the next week or even longer, and acknowledging that their investigation is leading to at least one of the airport runways here at SDF to be closed, yet they note the importance of getting those answers that many have about this tragedy.
Not only is this a company that moves freight, they are delivering life-saving drugs, postal products, food, supplements, you name it, that come through this hub every night. And so we've been emphasizing the need to make sure we're getting every piece of perishable evidence and doing it in the most diligent way, but at the same time, understanding that this investigation could slow down a lot of important products, not just for this company, but for Americans across the country and across the world. And I think we have to be cognizant of that. That's the reason why we were working so diligently today to try to do the mapping and to get the fire walk. In regard to actually keeping the runway shut down, we do not shut down runways as the airport authority. Obviously, they have been working with us in a great fashion and are trying to do everything they can to make sure we have the information. But we are hopeful that we can turn over at least one of the runways shortly, and as soon as possible the other runway, while still preserving all the evidence.
Now, NTSB has several groups that would hold their first organizational meeting tonight. And though early on in this investigation, Todd Inman, who you just heard from, cleared up many instances of speculation about this crash. Now, first, they will not determine the cause of the crash this week, but we can expect the NTSB's crash report possibly in the next 30 days. They also do not believe that federal staffing shortages contributed to the crash and said that rumors about the UPS plane being delayed prior to takeoff due to maintenance for an issue with that same left engine and wing were absolutely not true. And I also want to note that NTSB will have a briefing tomorrow, as well as we can expect, the mayor and all of the big officials who are just trying to keep up with everything happening with this tragedy. But we will hear from NTSB tomorrow for sure.
All right, Alexis Matthews, thank you so much for that update. And U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy spoke in Washington, D.C. today about this tragedy here in Louisville, Kentucky. He warned people about jumping to conclusions on exactly what caused this crash.
There are a lot of videos online. A lot of theories have been deployed online based on what folks have seen. We are not in the business of theories. We don't speculate. We are going to wait for the facts to come out, and with those facts, we will present them to the American people, as well as with the NTSB. I'd also note the FAA has a ground team in conjunction with the NTSB, both of them are doing great work to get to the facts of what happened. I do want to extend my condolences to the families of those who lost loved ones in the crash.
And back here in Louisville, the airfield is open and the airport has resumed nearly normal operations. But anyone scheduled to fly out or into Louisville tonight or tomorrow should check the status of your flight with your airline. Now, at last report, there were 2 patients in critical condition at U of L Hospital today. They are among the 15 people who were treated at several U of L hospitals and health facilities. This afternoon, doctors detailed the extent of those injuries that they saw.
We've seen burns, obviously, based upon the fire, and we've seen those from being very severe to minor. We've seen blast injuries from the explosion itself. We've also seen some shrapnel injuries where flying pieces of debris have hit either bystanders or people in relatively close proximity to the accident when it occurred. So really a gamut of that, as well as conditions that were exacerbated from the smoke and all of the other things that came into the hospital that were treated.
Now, the other 13 patients have since been released from the hospital. Back here at the Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport, flights continue to take off, including UPS flights. There's one about to take off here. They've been taking off all afternoon. Rick and Vicki, still, though, very heavy here at the airport as the city is devastated from this UPS crash.
Be a while, for sure.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now, the debris field is even larger than originally thought, with the NTSB confirming this afternoon that it spans between 1/2 and 3/4 of a mile.
Addie Miners joins us now live to explain the scope of the horrific scene. Addie?
Rick, Vicki, now we don't yet know exactly how many businesses were affected by this, but just by count, we could see around 15 are in this square mile radius alone that we know was affected. Now, in a press conference earlier today, Mayor Craig Greenberg did confirm that as of right now, we don't know exactly how many businesses were directly hit, but we do know in the total area, it spans approximately 1/2 mile. That's that debris field. Now, officials confirm that the debris field is from Crittenden Drive up to the north to just south of Melton Avenue, Gray Lane over on the west, and Hawkins Avenue to the east. Now, as you can see from WLKY News Chopper, crews are still surveying the damage right now. And they will be for the foreseeable future. I spoke with Metro Emergency Services earlier today, who told me they don't know yet how many acres of land that were burned up directly from this crash, but they are working to determine that within that 1/2 mile that was directly impacted. They say it's probably going to be a few days exactly before we know the answer to that question. Now, where I'm standing here right now, I'm at Outer Loop in Grade Lane, and you can see these police lights over my shoulder. That's because police have this road completely shut off. Grade Lane from here at Outer Loop all the way down to Fern Valley Road. They've got police on both sides. We've seen some crews going in and out today throughout the day, working with those rescue crews that are on scene. Now, I did ask Metro Emergency Services earlier today when I was talking to them when they anticipate Grade Lane will be back open for operation. I have not yet gotten an answer on that. Live from Outer Loop in Grade Lane, I'm Addie Miners, WLKY News.
Thank you, Addie. Now, the aviation community is feeling this devastating incident deeply, supporting each other in this aftermath.
Norman Seawright joins us now live. And Norman, what is the pilots union telling you tonight?
Well, Rick, Vicki, it is especially hard for the Independent Pilots Association as that UPS Pilots Union works to support the crew members' families and to support each other. I spoke with IPA President Bob Travis earlier today. Now, he is not speculating about the circumstances around the crash. He is, like the rest of us, waiting for the data the NTSB is able to recover from that black box flight recorder. He was once an MD-11 flight instructor, and he says the extensive training pilots go through includes potential disaster scenarios like this. They are trained to do everything they can to safely recover, and if they cannot, it is within their training to try to do everything they can to limit the damage.
If you're referring to avoiding further catastrophe on the ground, as a pilot myself, former military pilot, longtime airline pilot, it's something you're always aware of and cognizant of as you're working an emergency and trying to get the aircraft safely under control and back on the ground. So that would be a reasonable assumption that that would be something that a pilot, any of our pilots, would have in their toolbox to put into consideration, certainly.
Now, Travis said that he has been in contact with all of the families of the crew member on board that aircraft. And IPA and UPS both are working to support everyone involved and, of course, everyone who knew these other crew members as well. Live tonight, Norman Seawright, WLKY News.
Thank you, Norman. Well, the crash had a ripple effect as the UPS plane slammed into two businesses south of the airport. We hear from workers who witnessed the horrific tragedy, and they describe the frantic efforts to escape the fiery disaster. That's next on the News at 6.
You're watching WLKY News.
28 investigators with the NTSB are on the ground tonight beginning the search for clues into yesterday's disaster. The UPS plane's left wing caught fire and the engine fell off before it crashed and exploded during takeoff. We are continuing our live team coverage for you.
Let's go back out now to Jennifer Bayless at the Louisville airport. Jennifer?
Well, Vicki and Rick, workers at a Louisville business recounted barely escaping with their lives when that UPS plane crashed here yesterday and exploded right in front of their business. Madison Elliott spoke to those employees. She's live along Grade Lane here for us tonight. Madison?
Jennifer, employees at the Kentucky Truck Parts and Service business, which is off of Grade Lane, they saw the plane crash right in front of them. Access to their business right now is still closed off, as it has been since yesterday. Security footage from the business captures the moment that you see the UPS plane crash and then explode and just burst into flames, and you can just see how the flames and the thick smoke just consumed the air, making it really hard for the employees to see. They told me they were trapped and spent almost 2 hours trying to find a way out, and they recount the very scary moments.
I sent my cousin to the store to get us some soft drinks, and as soon as he left, we went and washed our hands, walked back into the shop, and was trying to eat something, and all of a sudden the explosion happened, knocked me, I don't know about him, knocked me out of my foot, and you know, the next thing we know, we just walk out of a shop, it's like maybe 10 feet, and flames were so bad, heat was, you can feel the heat from far away, and you know, we make a decision, run for our lives.
And he said it was just him and the other employee who were there, so they are both okay. But as far as access to their business, nobody is getting through this barricade right now. Back to those businesses today. Reporting live, Madison Elliott, WLKY News.
All right, thank you, Madison. GFL Environment and Grade A Auto Parts sustained catastrophic damage.
Sam Carter spoke with the CEO and an employee of Grade A who witnessed the plane as it barreled through the scrapyard.
If you live in Louisville, in a way, the events of Tuesday night changed our lives forever. But maybe none more so than the folks at the Grade A scrapyard.
Everything runs through your mind all at once. Is it an earthquake? Were you on a volcano? Like, it was just the eruption.
That's Grade A Auto Parts CFO Georgie Dow describing the aftermath of the UPS plane crashing into buildings, causing a massive fire and obliterating the company's scrap house. It's something that Dow is still wrapping her head around.
Somebody asked me, have you taken a moment to process? And I'm like, it's not a moment. It's over and over and over. You just reprocess it.
Dow was in the company's main office at the time of the crash, less than 100 yards from where the plane went down. And while she was fortunate to escape uninjured, according to the company, 3 employees are still unaccounted for. And what's more, it's believed customers may have been on site as well. The company CEO is Sean Garber. We caught up with him a short time after he was allowed to tour his property.
A war zone. What I saw and what I smelled and I felt was still heat and smoke and oil and burning, and knowing that they told us there were still bodies there that were unidentifiable.
Grade A is currently working with law enforcement to identify those bodies, but for Dow and those who survived along with her, these are connections lost.
But I have like 2 of the 3 I have relationships with. I talk to every day. I talked to them on the phone earlier in the day, got an email from them, you know, and it's like, they're just gone.
I asked Sean what is next for him, and he says to pick up the pieces and hopefully rebuild. In Louisville, Sam Carter, WLKY News.